Hi, this is Alex from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book on record to play. Today's book is Barbie Go to the City from 1981. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody. This is Barbie, and this is your Barbie read-along book. Every time you hear this chime, it means that you should turn the page in your storybook. Now we are ready to begin our adventure into the land of fun. Open your book, and we will begin the story of Barbie's trip to the city. Remember, when you hear the chime, turn the page. I had been planning my trip to the city for weeks. There are so many exciting things to see and do there. I wanted to work out my schedule carefully so I wouldn't miss a thing. The night before I left, I packed all the clothes I would need and checked over my list of things to do once I arrived. My train was leaving at 9 o'clock the next morning, so I went to bed early to make sure I would be well rested for the day that lay ahead. The following morning, I woke up before the alarm even went off. I showered and got dressed in a nice traveling outfit. Mom and Dad drove me to the train station, and I bought my ticket. Soon the conductor shouted, "All aboard!" and the train began to roll. I waved goodbye to my parents from the window. The train picked up speed, and soon we were rolling across beautiful farmland and along wide rivers. The time passed quickly. I had a nice lunch in the dining car, and soon we were nearing the city. I looked out the window, and there in the distance I could see the skyscrapers that towered against the sky. A few minutes later, the train pulled into the station. I collected my bags and went through the big lobby of the train station and out into the city. The first thing I did was to hail a taxi and tell the driver to take me to my hotel. I was amazed at all the people I saw along the way. In a few minutes, we arrived at my hotel. It was a large old hotel with beautiful furniture and thick carpets. I checked in, dropped my bags in my room, and started out on my sightseeing adventure. As I made my way through the streets of the city, I found myself looking up at the gigantic buildings that towered overhead. They seemed to reach all the way up to the clouds. How amazing, I thought, that there are people who live and work 50 stories in the air. Along the streets, there were many beautiful small shops and markets. I passed restaurants that served exotic foods from all over the world. Any kind of food you could ever want was available in the city. When I passed the entrance to a big department store, I couldn't resist going inside to do a little shopping. The store was huge. I wandered from section to section looking at all the merchandise on display. There were terrific clothes, jewelry, shoes, books, and records. It seemed that this store had everything you could ever want to buy, all under one roof. I picked out some gifts to take back home as presents. For myself, I bought a lovely silk scarf to wear later that evening. My next stop was the Statue of Liberty. The statue stands on an island in the city harbor. You have to take a ferry boat to reach it. Slowly, I climbed to the top and looked out from the observation deck inside the crown. As I looked down, I thought about the millions of people who have immigrated to this country by boat over the years. How beautiful Miss Liberty must have looked to them as they arrived in their new country for the first time. My next stop was the Empire State Building. The elevator ride to the top seemed to go on forever. Finally, we reached the top floor. From the big windows that surround the building, I could see the whole city laid out below me like a toy town. Far below, the people looked like tiny ants scurrying around the busy sidewalks. I'm not really afraid of heights, but I did get a little bit dizzy when I looked all the way down. The city seemed to stretch on forever. The next day, I went on a tour of the art museum. Our guide led us through room after room of the most beautiful paintings and sculpture I had ever seen. Some of the paintings were very old and showed how people lived and dressed long ago. There were also many modern paintings with bright colors and bold shapes. I enjoyed them all. I had a delicious lunch in the museum restaurant, surrounded by fountains and lovely plants and flowers. The world seemed like a nicer place, just knowing that there are artists who work hard to create objects of beauty. That evening, I had one of the most exciting nights of my life. I went to the theater to see a big Broadway musical. As soon as the house lights dimmed and the orchestra began the overture, I knew I was in for a real treat. The show was wonderful. The scenery, costumes, and lights were breathtaking. I applauded for all the actors, singers, and dancers. What an exciting life it must be in the theater. After the show, I decided to walk back to my hotel. Along the way, I passed through Times Square. I gazed up at all the millions of brightly colored lights that twinkled overhead. Soon I was back at my hotel. I had spent a long and busy day, and I was tired. I went upstairs to my room. From my window, I looked out over the big town. It seemed as if the hustle and bustle of the city continued all night long. I said goodbye to the city because tomorrow I would start back home. The following morning, I checked out of the hotel and went directly to the train station. In a few minutes, the huge train roared out of the station, and we began retracing our journey back home. I knew that Mom and Dad would be waiting for me at the station when we arrived. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to tell them about all the wonderful things I had seen and done on my trip to the city.
So that was Barbie Go to the City from 1981. So please like, subscribe, share, and comment, and have a groovy day. And our next book will be Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.